my delicious co-creators. Lilou here for part 2 with Procter Gamble. You might have watched part 1. If not, please do. I know that sometimes it's a bit of a reality check to look at all those facts and the things that you have been researching on, but it's important to look at them before getting into this Thrive. Of course, you've created with your wife the Thrive, this beautiful, amazing documentary that's been seen by millions of people around the world. 14 million?
Well, it's over 18 at least now. It's probably more like 30 to 50, given that what we document is one DVD equals one view, whereas people are using them for repeated community screenings with hundreds of people and that type of thing. But it's in 24 languages now, all over the world. And we're just thrilled because we basically didn't even market the movie other than conversations like this. So we were really heartened that people trusted the movie. They trusted the facts, they trusted the tone, they trusted it enough to be able to give it to their family and their spouses and their the people at work and people in their network, and just say, have a look at this, and if you're interested, then let's talk. That's mostly how it spread.
So after looking at all of this, how do you find solution? Are there really solutions actually to be able to live this amazing life, and so that on the planet we really start thriving too? Because things don't look that good. Why did you call it Thrive?
Well, Thrive was the farthest out that we could see in our vision. I was trained as a high-speed driver years ago, and in my training with a race driver, he said, the farthest you can look into the curve is where you want to be looking when you're driving at high speeds, because that will help you coordinate what they call the line that you go through that curve. So when Kimberly and I were looking as to what we wanted to name the movie, I said, well, I told her that story, and I said, the furthest out that I can see is humanity thriving on a healthy planet. And if we had to bring that down to one word, it would be thriving or thrive. So we both said, yeah, that's it. And now we're happy to see that meme is really emerging all over the world.
So in the movie, you speak of this free energy of people getting together. There's a lot of different solutions you propose. Where does it start?
Well, this is the most exciting part to me. And by the way, before I get into that, I'll say that between Kimberly and I, we've done several blogs recently that are on our website at thrivemovement.com, one of which addresses how to deal effectively with the emotions that arise as you deal with the bad news about a lot of what's in the way of our thriving. And then the other one was how to share difficult information with friends without losing friendships.
Because I wanted to actually talk to you about that towards the end, yes, because that's a big one.
It's a big one, because anybody who's waking up, and it is by the hundreds of millions or billions that people are waking up. You look at the Arab Spring, and you look what's happening in Greece and Italy and so forth. All over the planet, people are waking up, and as soon as you do, then you're in the game with the rest of us of, okay, how do I talk about this without sounding like a nutcase? And I especially want to share it with the people that I care most about, but I don't want to lose those friendships. So we can get into that later on. But there's some blogs on thrivemovement.com that address that. But back to the solutions. We suggested in Thrive that the core kind of navigating compass for solutions on planet Earth was this donut. Not the donuts are the solution, but the torus form is actually the key. It's the blueprint. And people are beginning to understand what we were talking about. The most obvious form is that I said in the film that every free energy lab that I had ever visited that was being successful was in some way mimicking and dancing with, instead of crushing or burning or whatever, this fundamental toroidal vortex energy form. And I have had the privilege of visiting many labs. Since the film came out, we've been contacted by over 300 serious inventors, probably half or more of those in the energy field, others in agriculture, in health, in decontamination, in water purifications. It's just so absolutely thrilling. So I've gotten a chance to visit a lot more labs, and I'm continuing to, and that continues to be true. They're all the successful ones are accessing this fundamental pattern that the universe uses to sustain a healthy living system. So not only is it the key to accessing energy in a clean, free, and safe way, but it's also the template for the wholeness of any system. So in the previous segment, we talked about the the lack of health in our health system and in our food system. A food system is an organic field, literally and figuratively, of whole seeds developing into whole plants, giving off whole fruits and vegetables for our whole nutrition. And then we come along and we disrupt the ecosystem. We take out the polyculture, many plants growing together, create monoculture, one plant as far as you can see. And then we douse it with herbicides and pesticides and fertilizers, and then cover the ground with plastic, and then inject GMOs. And then we think that somehow we're going to get wholeness out of that. No, what's that has done is systematically and intentionally, I suggest, destroyed the wholeness of the ecosystem and ultimately of our food and then of our health. But the good news is that that's an example of the problem. The health was intentionally destroyed, the wholeness. Mm-hmm. So what do we do to fix that? Well, let's use the torus as a template. Let's go back to the seed. Well, it's whole already. So let's don't inject, animal parts or, DNA or something like that. Let's leave it whole. And then secondly, we've got the ecosystem. Which has a natural balance. As long as you've got other plants in between the rows and so forth, you won't need pesticides. You won't need herbicides. As long as you allow the plants to replenish the soil, you won't need the fertilizers. And then look at the hydrological cycle. If we're not, manipulating the weather and polluting the water when it hits the ground and so forth, we'll have a natural recycling. That's the hydrological torus. And then if we don't, fill the air with pollution and chemtrails and so forth, we'll have a natural torus of a healthy atmosphere. So that's an example of all we have to do is recognize what wholeness looks like and then stop the practices which are destroying the wholeness. And if you look not only at our food system and our energy system, but you look at healthcare, you look at education, you look at media, it's the same thing always. The wholeness, the integrity, the honesty, the transparency and so forth has been systematically destroyed. And the good news is that it was done by a very few people and intentionally. So as we expose that, that can be healed. Nature wants to heal that. Most people want to have that healed. And following the template of the torus, we can actually heal all of the 13 major sectors of human endeavor that we outline in our solutions wheel on thrivemovement.com.
Mm-hmm. But it seems like a lot of them are out of our control, and that's kind of always where people are coming from, like, oh, I'm going to have other people deal with that, and we're not really taking our leadership. Huh?
Yeah, that's a great...
Chemtrails, for example.
Great comment, because the controller's greatest weapon is deception. And the biggest deception is to convince us that, number one, they should have the authority in the first place. And number two, to convince us that there's nothing really that a person can do about it. It's just all too powerful. It's literally like the Wizard of Oz, where you've got this great voice and all these special effects and everything. You got the media and you've got the governmental system and the corporations and so forth. The fact of the matter is it's a bunch of human beings who are trying to deceive the rest of humanity. And as they get exposed, then their only power comes from us. The corporations don't have power unless we buy their products. The governments don't have banking. They don't have power unless we agree to give it to them. The banks don't have the power unless we let them make up money and then put our money in their system so they can multiply it by 10, all that kind of stuff. So when I was writing articles for our website, which I did over a 3-year period, there are, we've got 13 sectors, another 8 issues, and then topics, and then 5 or 6 critical issues in every one of those sectors. So we wrote articles about what's the vision, what could be, what's in the way, what are the main issues, and then solution strategies that don't violate anybody in the process.
Very resourceful website, yes. Well done.
Thank you. And it was a depressing process for me to write about all these critical issues until I had an epiphany one day as I was writing. I realized I'm writing the same article over and over. If you follow the money in any of these areas, it comes back to a very few people. We outnumber them by more than 1,000,000 to 1. We have love and truth and the life force on our side, and the vast majority of people, we just need to get this information out, and then people respond from the grassroots, from individual sovereignty up, rather than begging these slave leaders to let us be free and healthy.
So petitions and going in letters to the government for you is useless?
It's a step. It helps get attention. It helps mobilize people. In my observation of the women's rights movement, civil rights movements, it's always a messy process. But it's always, as Martin Luther King says, the arc is always bending toward justice. And so I'm in favor of any of those type of things as long as they don't create new violations as we go along. But ultimately, each of the solutions comes back to restoring the wholeness of the torus, and at the individual level, the wholeness of the torus. I mean, the human level, the wholeness of the torus. Let me say this again. At the human level, the wholeness is the individual, not the group, and that's the lie that we have been told that has allowed the dictators, the pharaohs, the governments, the church, the royalty, and now, even the so-called democratically elected societies, our belief that they should have authority over us is the only thing that gives them power to literally come and steal our money, put us in a cage, at gunpoint if we don't agree, and then go off and spend our money in such outrageously destructive ways.
Yeah, it sounds like modern slavery.
It is. The slave owners finally realize, people are waking up. It's also very expensive to house and feed slaves. So instead, we'll make them think they're free. Instead of just doing it to blacks, we'll do it to everyone who isn't us, some small, group of elites or something like that. And we'll do it through debt, and they won't even know us. They'll thank us. They'll pay us for doing it. Yeah. That's the scam that people are waking up to now.
Some people really feel free now. We hear the more I feel free. I'm out of the prison. I'm out of this cage. I feel like I can think of my own. I can make choices that are mine. I mean, there is no any other better feeling than that, I think, on the planet. It's one of the top feelings.
Exactly. And let me acknowledge you specifically in what you're doing with your media, because you're communicating with so many people with such deep spirituality, with transformational skills and interests. And at the same time, you have been fearless about looking into these more challenging subjects. And that's happening more and more. Because of Thrive, I've been invited on to radio and TV programs and conferences and festivals and so forth throughout the entire political spectrum, throughout the entire scientific spectrum, et cetera. What's really happening right now is the particular...
You haven't been stopped.
No, fortunately. And what we have been finding is that people who have been committed to their individual freedom, to the transformation of their own consciousness, to really waking up to who they are as a sovereign spiritual being, distinct but unified with everything in the universe, to keep growing that experience inside in an honest way, ultimately comes up against, okay, does my outer reality fit that? And when the world is in debt slavery, they're suffering, they're sick, they're at war with each other and so forth, ultimately the inner transformation is not enough. In fact, when I started on this quest, there was a moment in college when a friend had introduced me to Zen meditation, and I was getting quite serious about it, meditating hours a day. And the deeper I went in my meditation, the more I kept hearing this deep rumbling. And I kept thinking, okay, this is the Kundalini, it's going to be a rise from its coil at the bottom of my spine and wake up and enlighten me and all that kind of stuff.
For the rest of my life, and I'm going to be free right there.
Exactly. What happened instead was the deeper I got into it, the clearer it got, and it was the wailing and suffering of humanity. And the more I meditated, the louder it got. I was ready to stop meditation. It was excruciating. Until finally the insight came to me, you can't run from this. So I turned and I looked at it and I listened to it and I felt it in myself. And in that moment, I said, I will commit the rest of my life to doing everything I can about this, whatever it takes. Never came back. And I have held to that commitment the rest of my life, and Thrive is simply the most recent expression of, okay, what's the most powerful thing I can do to help other people realize what's in the way of our thriving, and then to coordinate into solutions so that truly everybody has the opportunity to thrive on a healthy planet.
So to be free, to feel that freedom and to become free, the first step is to do this reality check, right? And then what
inside yourself first and think, okay, what's in the way of me being free? Am I just buying into other people's belief systems? And then at the same time, balance that on the outside. Am I buying into other people's belief systems? Be they religious, governmental, societal, whatever. What's really true for me? And for anybody who goes on that quest, pretty soon you come to the edge of what David Icke refers to as the hassle-free zone. Because if you start really looking at what's going on with conspiracies, what's going on with extraterrestrials, what's going on with the suppression of free energy and the government subsidies of GMOs and toxic vaccines and so forth. Once you realize that, then to speak your own truth takes a whole next level of courage. But what Kimberly and I have seen as we've been traveling to cities all over the world with Thrive and our solutions workshops is that people, and by the countless numbers on a daily basis, are waking up and saying, yes, I can handle the truth. And not only that, but I'm ready to get on with the next step of solutions.
How do you make decisions from that place?
Well, here's what we suggest. First of all, we never set out to centralize control over some big, global corporation, and we're not doing that. We're simply providing tools to empower self-creating movements. The less we can do, the better. So what we recommend that people do is, first of all, look inside yourself deeply and go, okay, what is my purpose in life? A lot of people go a long time without ever asking that. And you're the only one who knows the answer to that question for you. So then write it down. For me, it's something I realized it was to learn every day more and more how to thrive, and then to share what I learn with anybody who's interested. And your purpose can.
How did you know that was your purpose? Because a lot of people are looking for their purpose.
Yeah, I just looked inside and listened. And so there's also another blog on the website that we just put up a couple of weeks ago on finding your purpose and what purpose really is. Because for some people, purpose has to do with a quest. Others, it's learning. Others, it's sharing. Others, it's finding. Others, it's protecting. And what I realized after teaching workshops for years on this, I collected people's purposes, and they fell naturally into 7 categories that started with listening inside yourself, and then seeking and finding and learning and experimenting and integrating, and then finally protecting what you had learned, and then teaching it, sharing it with other people. Turns out, those are simply different facets of the toroidal dynamic. So I realized purpose itself is the toroidal dynamic that each of us are. So at some point in your life, your purpose may be more to nurture your children, or it may be more to teach knowledge in a school, or to protect justice in the courts, or whatever. But you'll find your purpose will fit somewhere on that sequence, on that torus. And so you come to realize that not only do you have a purpose, nothing in the universe exists except as a function of purpose. This table, these clothes, you and I as human beings, we all are being motivated by purpose.
It's like once we realize that we're part of the whole, and that we're all connected, our simple our presence just makes it purposeful. I mean, we are purposeful.
Yeah, I mean, try and stay in bed in the morning. Just take a week off and see how long you actually want to stay in bed. Even if somebody brings you food or something like that, pretty soon you'll start feeling that urge to get up and get on with it. And, I was blessed in my life to have enough financial resources that my life hasn't been a lot about that, so I could actually get on with it more quickly. But we're all in the same boat. Once you have what you need, the next natural question is, how do you help other people get what they need?
The whole money conversation is another one, but I do feel, and having done what I have done through donations, I can definitely certify that it's not about the money. It's about really having the courage to step forward.
And the privilege to be able to live your purpose. There's nothing, maybe other than having good health and love, that's it. And it really is available for all of us. It's just, it's a step out. But back to the sequence of what can an individual do, we recommend starting with what's my purpose. Then ask yourself, what sector am I most interested in? Or what am I best at? Am I drawn toward justice, or am I drawn toward environment, or health, or the arts, or spirituality? And then write that down. And then within that sector, or it might be 2 or 3 sectors you're interested in, what issues most draw me, or most tick me off, or what most motivate me, and then write that down. And then one more thing is we recommend people determine the level of engagement that most excites you. And by that I mean, are you someone who you're a doctor who wants to go to Africa where they don't have much medicine and do Doctors Without Borders? Do you want to go down to a soup kitchen and feed people who literally are hungry right now? So that's the immediate needs level. For other people, it's like, no, I want to work on changing the systems so that so many people aren't suffering. So immediate needs are getting met better. So you might want to work on the money system, or on media systems, or on educational systems, or something like that. There's a lot of leverage in affecting a lot of lives that way. And then the third and final level that we identify is the consciousness shift itself, because those systems all come out of people's worldviews. And that's a function of your consciousness. So you might want to be writing or teaching, or you might want to be studying philosophy, or studying logic, or worldviews, or whatever it is, because the more clearly our consciousness is aligned with the natural flows of nature, the more our systems are going to reflect healthy flows, and then immediate needs are going to be getting met. So none of those are any better than any others. It's a matter of which one's right for you. And the punchline of this is, and because we've been doing these workshops now all over the world, is that people get to, first of all, start by looking inside themselves without just running around, crashing around to do something, but get clear on, who am I in the world? What is my calling? Because once you realize that, then you've got all that fuel of nature telling you, what, through its biofeedback system, what you most want to do. And the truth is, you can actually do that. You need to make ends meet, and if you haven't coordinated your purpose with your job yet, work toward that. But meantime, only take on the sector and issue that most excites you. And then what we're doing on our website, on the Solutions Hub, is giving people a tool where they can connect by region, by sector, or by issue with those people who are also working on the same thing. So you don't have to recreate the wheel. Somebody's already done the flyer. They've done the petition. They've done the class action lawsuit. Oftentimes people have already raised the money, and they're looking for other people to collaborate with. So this way, people can organize in a way that is based not on, I've got to go out and save the whole world, and what chance is there of that?
I can do it on my own.
Exactly. But instead, I get to do exactly what I came here to do, and I get to be in communication with other people who are also joyously doing exactly what they came here to do. And that's the tool that was so effective back in 2007 in Northern California, when a lot of us got together and were able to stop a presidential earmark of $1 billion to spray 11 million people in Northern California with toxic pesticides. We were able to stop that. We stopped the spraying in a few weeks and stopped the project in 6 months with only about $40,000, because people organized, and the lawyers did their thing, and the artists did theirs, and the media people, and the environmentalists, and the scientists. So it was able to coordinate random activism into a laser beam of effectiveness in a very short amount of time. So what we're doing now is offering those teachings to the world, and we'll be coming out soon with a webinar against chemtrails, but using that as an example to teach people how to coordinate either locally or globally on any issue.
I start my videos with hello, my beautiful co-creators. I believe co-creation, how would you define co-creation? Because it's kind of something that I feel is a big idea to that we get together. It's even more than sharing or coming together. There's something also to do with being unconditional also for each other, but there's these issues that we want to contribute to. So it's what is your view on all that?
Yeah, I always love it when you start it that way, particularly because I feel so grateful and blessed in my life to be experiencing such a co-creative partnership with Kimberly. and it was especially manifested in the film. And when we started in on the film, we knew this was going to be a big deal. It took 8 years to make, and we sat down and we the first thing we decided was that our relationship is primary. Nothing having to do with schedule, stress, decision-making, nothing will come in the way of the quality of our relationship. And then our second commitment was we won't stop this project, we won't finish the film until neither one of us has any what we called the cringe factor, where we had to settle for something or put something in we didn't feel good about or take something out we didn't feel good about. So lots of times, we didn't necessarily agree on things. We're very compatible and aligned, but there's always that creative tension of you're coming from different perspectives. So we always kept going until there was alignment between us. And it was always a better solution that we finally came to than either one of us would have done on our own. And so that's just a little microcosm of what I see going on all over the world now, is people are learning to co-create with spirit inside themselves, learning to actually distinguish between the noise of your monkey mind and that kind of clear guidance of your spirit. So that's, I think, the initial co-creation. And then as you get some skill with that, then it's natural to find other people who are doing that already and then work out, okay, how do we communicate? What kind of contracts do we make? How do we handle the communication, decision-making, conflict resolution, and so forth? And that's
all new.
Yeah,
this way of working and of being is completely new from what we were taught.
That's right. This isn't something that we lost the book. This really hasn't been done. The history of the world is pretty destructive and adversarial. And we not only can create literally heaven on earth right now as we master these skills of aligning with nature, listening to spirit, respecting the freedom and integrity of every single being, but we actually have to. Because we have the weaponry on this planet right now where we can destroy the whole thing in a day if we don't really wake up to these things and have the necessary conversations, step out of the hassle-free zone and start, loving each other and telling each other the truth.
So I know that you have a lot more questions out there. I could hear them already, and that's why there's this beautiful site that has been created where you can check out and get the information you need, including the one of how to deal with friends and family. Thank you so much, Foster, for this delicious conversation. I love it. Really enjoyed it.
Pleasure, Lilou, and thank you so much for what you continue to do around the world. I really believe that independent, brave, honest media is literally the lifeblood of the transformation on the planet right now. So thank you.
Yeah. It takes courage to step in our truth, huh?
Thank you, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, my delicious co-creators. Big, big kiss from beautiful Santa Cruz, California. And please stay tuned because there's Kimberly Campbell is coming right up. Thank you.